I'm here today with Paola Mariani, and Paola is the creator and curator of an eco park in Cabo Verde, or otherwise known as Cape Verde. And this is specifically on one of the 10 islands, I think there are, and it's on the island of Sal. So one of the things I'm really eager to explore with Paola is making choices, commitment, and contribution to a society that is originally not necessarily your own. So thank you very much, Paola, for being with me so that we can explore this journey together. And
thank you for inviting me.
yeah, I'm delighted to have you. So thank you very much for being here on the show. And I want to get started by something that really inspired me on your TED Talk, because you called yourself a citizen of the planet, and you said that you are Italian because your passport says so. I think I quote. And I thought that was just such a brilliant line. And yeah, do you want to say a little bit more about that? Get us started.
Correct. I'm Italian because my passport says so. I'm married to an Argentinian man. I live in Cabo Verde, so I'm not so attached to my nationality. And I think, of course, I love the culture of my country, but I can also love cultures of other countries. And I happen to be lucky enough to be to have been able to live in different places. I'm here in Cabo Verde now, Africa. and and of course, I don't mind. I could be here, could be anywhere else. I mean, who knows? And who knows where I'm gonna be tomorrow?
Mm.
But there is one thing: it's all these places will always be on the same planet, and I think it is our duty as people, as human beings, to care for the planet. So I don't really care about borders and stuff. I'll probably have a Cape Verdean passport very soon. Not that I need it to feel Cape Verdean, but I will need it to travel much easier. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the most important concepts for me always. As I've started traveling when I was only 19, and the idea was, Mom, I'm gone for a couple of months, and I'll be back. So I guess I was having fun. Of course, I always had fun while being first in England and then to Fuerteventura and Canary Island and then here. But it was kind of the build up of my mentality, and it opened my mind so much, realizing that, hey, yeah, of course, I love Italy and I'm Italian and whatever, but there's not a string that attached me to Italy. I'm not obliged to stay there. There's not a chain that keeps me there. What we call roots can move, which is amazing. So I realized there that it doesn't really matter where I am. Wherever I am, I will love it. I will cherish it. I will study to discover the best, and I will do my best to maybe improve it.
Mm.
Because that's what my grandma always told me. If you go to any place, don't leave it dirty, don't leave it as you should, go enjoy it and leave it better than before.
Wow, that's quite an ethos to take with you. And before you went to Cape Verde, you went to Fuerteventura. And how critical was that in shaping the plan to end up being in Cape Verde?
Well, Fuerteventura was probably the best thing I've done for my person. First of all, because I met myself in Fuerteventura.
Mm.
I I I was 20 years old, so super young, But of course, even if you, mostly when you're young, you are so attached to your origins, or your mom, your papa, your whatever, everything that is around you kind of defines who you are.
Mm.
So going to Fuerteventura with a very early age, with a crazy idea in my mind, which was go to work to Fuerteventura when I couldn't even speak Spanish. Zero. I had zero Spanish in my head, and I moved to Spain. Um, but that was, and I got there, and I didn't have any friends. I didn't know anybody. I only got a job because of a person who knew someone who knew someone who knew someone, and I've always been very straightforward. So I just called this person that I didn't know. I asked for a job. He gave it to me, and I went. It was hard, to say the least. It was terrible for the first couple of weeks. I was like, what the heck am I doing here? Why am I doing this to myself? Why am I mistreating my little own self of 20 years old being here in the middle of nowhere, knowing nobody? But that was me getting myself in the opportunity to know who Paola was. With zero attachments, I didn't have friends, neighbors, mama, papa, family, cousin, nothing. It was just me, like a crazy mad little girl. But I'm stubborn. I'm really stubborn, and I get to realize it more and more. Don't get better with age. So that was super important to know Paola and to make that little middle step I needed before moving to Cabo Verde, which is the real deal, which is the real desert island in Africa. Because,
Mm.
Fuerteventura was still easy. It is a very similar island to Cabo Verde in terms of geology. It's flat, it's desertic, same weather more or less, but that is Europe, and this is not Europe.
Mm.
And in Fuerteventura and in Canary Island, everything is done. So after 3 years, me and my husband look at each other and we're like, well, if we want to make something new, it's so hard here. And that's when I told him, well, Cabo Verde, it's just a couple of hours flight down south. And I've been there because my father built a hotel here when I was a teenager. So, of course, I always had this little love for Cabo Verde. And after being 3 years in Canary Islands and seeing that I can survive without going shopping every Saturday, I was like, I can do that. I think I can do that. And that's when I decided to come. Of course, again, my plan was a couple of years maximum, then it's done, we do something. I had the same idea that everybody has when you go to a foreign country that is developing. And when I got here, I realized that. So everybody comes to Cabo Verde thinking, oh, there is nothing there. I will go, I will do it, I will make a lot of money, and then take it and go. And when I realized what that means, I was like, that's wrong.
Mm.
That is wrong. To just go to a country, make your own business, do everything possible to earn as much as possible, and live. No matter what happens with your business or whatever, with the country, with the people, you're gone. So when I realized that, I started to work with a little bit more of interest
Mm.
and really realize in everything I was doing, trying to realize it with an interest in the actual country. And first of all, for me, was learning Creole.
So you now speak, I know you speak several languages, but to benefit your life in Cape
Yes,
Verde, you speak
definitely.
Portuguese and Creole. Mm.
Portuguese and Creole. I think it is a sign of respect.
Did that have you feel more received, and was it easier to integrate and be part of the society, the local society, because you had that linguistic advantage?
Well, yes, definitely you feel more accepted
Mm,
as a foreign that makes the effort to speak their own language, which is not an
mm,
official language, which is a dialect. So really, you must be very willing to learn it. Also, because remember, I cannot marry a Cape Verdean. I already have an Argentinian husband. You know, when they ask me, "Oh, you speak Creole? Ah, you must have a Creole husband." I'm like, no, actually not. I'm like, oh my God, how is this even possible? Like, well, and he does speak it too, because we both, as a couple, think it is important
mm,
to give them, to make them understand that we are interested to be here
mm.
and be part of the community. Plus, I guess you realize already, I really, really like to talk. So taking off the opportunity to talk to people, that would be a killing for me. I can't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. You master a language, you instantly, it's like opening a gateway.
Yeah.
And I know you're committed, as you said, to making a difference. You want to leave things better than when you arrived. But what sowed the seed for the eco park?
It's not been easy since the beginning. So I came here with the idea to work for my father on a project that he was just launching. It was a real estate project with hotels, golf course, blah blah blah. I was supposed to build thousands of houses, and I start selling properties. So my job was selling property. I set up the whole selling office. I made all my contracts. I so that was my job, and which I hated. But by the way, but that in that moment, which is beginning of 2007. Um, England and Ireland were crazy about Cabo Verde. There was this boom of the real estate in Cabo Verde, and everybody was buying a home here. So I did a job that I basically hated for a couple of years, but it gave me great return. I mean, houses were selling like crazy until Lehman Brothers failed. So
And
that's when the world went
until what?
with the crisis, with
Oh
2008.
yes, 2008, of course, economic crisis, yes.
That was the world has gone upside down. But we had already started to produce plants. We had my father decided to start producing plants because he knows how difficult it is to import them from somewhere else, and because we were supposed to make 400 hectares of development, we were going to need a lot of plants. So he set up this greenhouse, and I take care, of course, of all the documents stuff. I do all the office work for the project, for the greenhouse, and the real estate, and then the lawyers, and then the clients, and then this and that. So it was a lot of. Uh, my father is the golf passionate, and he really wanted to build a golf course. I was just trying to deal with all of these and try to make a sense of what we were doing. Little step behind, my husband has a crazy passion for plants. So for years we have been living in apartments in Canary Islands, and we always had the most amazing little garden. Even if we only had like a little 2 square meters of green, it was perfect because Camilo is genuinely passionate about plants. So when we get here, he first started working with me at selling properties because I really needed people. And then when I don't need anyone to sell properties, he's like, "Oh, let me have a look at the greenhouse." And that's when he gets into the actual greenhouse production. We do gardens for other projects and da. And I'm taking care of that, and I'm bored because I like plants. I appreciate plants, but I like to work with people. My
Mm.
thing is people. My thing is having contact with people, talking four different languages at the same time. I want mine, but I need to work with people. So I was here first to work to sell properties because my idea was then to create some kind of botanical garden or tourist project inside the project. So I'm there looking at my husband making this greenhouse beautiful and going miles around just to find different plants, go to other islands to find another different plant and I see all this passion in him and I realize what we are doing, which is absolutely crazy, making plants in a desert island.
Mm.
And like someone has to talk about this. What the hell? We're doing amazing. We have 2 days of rain per year, and that's not an euphemism. It is 2 days of rain in the whole year.
Wow.
So it's completely dry. Salt,
Mm.
salt means salt. The only thing we have on the island is a lot of salt.
Oh, great.
We have salt mines, north, center, south. We have a volcano which has salt mines inside. I mean, it's so salty that we had to call it salt. The salt is in the air, is in the soil. If you analyze any part of the soil, there is salt in it. So actually growing anything alive
Mm.
is a miracle. And that became possible thanks to recycled water. Some there sitting and thinking, I mean, we're using recycled water, we're using solar panels, and we're making plants, and we're doing all of this not because we are just in, worried about the environment. We're doing it because there is no other option.
Mm. Mm.
I always say when you live in a country that has so little, your brain will develop much better
Mm.
because you really have to make your mind up on how to do anything,
Yeah.
get anything done. Nothing is easy. You have to make an exercise in your head
Mm.
to have anything realized.
Mm.
So first of all, I'm a nerd, so of course that fascinates me. And you never get bored. And that also means you never have today the same,
Mm.
which could also kill my health. I can I cannot do the same thing every day. I need I need to have different inputs all the time, and that was the problem in South.
Mm.
It's completely flat and dry.
Mm.
Literally, we have one road, one
Mm.
one main road that goes from north to south, and that's it. It's 18 kilometers road,
Mm.
and Stephanie, there is nothing else. So of course, my my problem was, oh my god, my mind is getting flat like the island, and I did everything in my power not to let that happen. I needed my brain to
Mm. To be
be active
stimulated.
and not
Yes.
become a vegetable.
Yeah. So it's extraordinary because um so yeah, it's interesting because I did think that maybe you had gone in or you like you say, did you go in with a mission? No, you didn't. And it was all kind of organic and everything was kind of coming together.
Yeah,
And
that's where I wanted to go. So
yeah.
I basically transformed myself into water and decided, okay, I don't have, when the crisis hit for me, I was 23 years old.
Mm,
For me, that was, wow, is it really?
mm,
I mean, I had, I had no idea what that meant until I had the result from having a queue in front of my office to zero, zero from one day to another. So I'm like, and then things started to happen and change, and I was like, oh my god, and how do you deal with life, right? That
mm,
was the first moment in my life that I was like, heck, that's not, this thing is not easy. You have no control.
mm,
So how are you supposed to play this game called life if you make a plan and you have no control on it?
mm. And the plan's not
And then I
necessarily going to
realized
go to plan.
that's also what one of the concepts that I had in my TED talk. Do not ever lose your final goal. I
Mm,
mean, I never lost my final goal that kept me here, that brought me here. That was the project, and actually the project went ahead, and we did realize the golf course and everything. So, but I was not attached to it.
mm,
I was not living anymore, and like, oh my god, if that doesn't happen, I am not a person anymore.
mm,
When I'm not stressed and worried, I can actually make things happen.
mm.
Maybe other things, but who cares?
You were something of a miracle maker, though, really, because, essentially, literally from a desert, you
Yeah.
created a botanical garden, and you brought greenery, grass
And
to,
actually, that was not just a thing. Sorry if I interrupt you,
no,
but
not at
so
all.
many people are like, "Oh, you made it," and I'm like, "No, actually, I didn't make the garden. My father made a initial investment. My husband is the guy who worked there.
Right.
I am only the one that made people realize what that is,
Okay.
because for many years people were just driving. We're on the main road, on the one only road of South. We're next to it. Okay, so you come to South, you have to drive past the garden. Nobody was interested. Can you
Mm,
believe that even if we are on a completely desertic island, there is, I look, the first name was Lana, which means flat. So it's completely flat
mm,
and completely desertic. So, for me, the first time you drive to South, you should see it, because I mean it's a bunch of it's 4 or 5 hectares of green
mm,
in the middle of the desert. So you should see it. But you know what? People wouldn't even notice.
mm. They just keep
Or
going.
yeah, look, and we're like, "Oh, yeah, whatever. They must be doing something in there." And making people realize that that was interesting, that there was a whole story behind, and create all that magic around the park. Well, that was me.
So I see. So it stemmed from your father, then your husband effectively created it, but you were the one who brought people to it. You were the one
Yeah.
who made people get that it was an attraction point in of itself.
If it was for my father, it would just be an abandoned greenhouse, because he would have got bored with all those years of nothing happening. So he would have
Mm,
finished and plants would have died.
mm,
If it was for my husband, it would be the most beautiful, perfect garden with nobody around, because he likes plants much better than people.
But before you realize, before it became what it is now, which is this phenomenal botanical garden in an eco park with numerous animals and It's got the golf course as well. Before it became the attraction point that brought in the people, were you ever tempted to give up? And is that where the yoga
Absolutely
played
every
a key
single day.
role? Mm,
Every day.
mm,
Every single day. I mean, again, it's been so hard
mm.
in terms of dealing with my father and my husband together at the same time. I don't know if you have any experience with working with family.
It
It's
takes
not easy.
something.
Yeah, it requires some capabilities that. Plus, there is one very important thing. My husband and my father are sun
Completely
and
different.
moon.
Right,
They
okay.
are two completely different universes. So for me, balancing between them, wow, it was not easy many times. And
Mm,
of course, I got so many times say, why am I doing it? Even my father asked me, why are you doing it?
mm,
But I felt I had to.
mm, mm,
So every day that I had that question going in my head, why the hell am I doing it? I would then breathe deep, and then something would happen that made me realize why I was doing
mm.
it.
That's
Take me back to
incredible.
where you are in the right place.
Yeah, yeah. And now it's really something of a legacy. I dare say when you were in that stage of, shall I give up? Shall I keep going? And bringing yourself back all the time. It didn't occur necessarily as a legacy, but it must be something that you're inherently very proud of, that that this exists, and not just because it exists, but because of what it makes available for local people, for tourists. I mean, it's really a place that welcomes anybody and everybody, isn't it? And
Yeah,
has opportunity for everybody, in the sense, if you want a quiet moment, you come in for the quiet moment. If you want to be with the animals, I mean, it offers so much to every type of person. Am I right?
yeah, yeah. It is. Sometimes they ask me to describe the park, and I'm like, I can't really. You should really come and visit because it depends on what you're looking for. It depends what your mood is. It depends how much time you have. It depends what weather there is, and it can be a complete new experience every single day.
Mm,
It is my therapy.
mm,
When I feel down, I just go around the park, do a little walk. I have a couple of places that I need to go and sit for a second, and I recharge and I go. My husband does the same. I have many friends that do the same, that work here. Again, working on a desert, small, tiny island can be challenging. So you
mm,
need to distress going somewhere else or doing something for your own.
mm,
Plus, also, I live outside most of my time. It's a beautiful island with the perfect weather, and but nature, green nature gives you a very different energy.
mm,
The energy you
absolutely.
have in Nepal is the salt, is the rocks, is the ocean. So it's the sun. When there's no sun, there is the freaking desert dust. It's always kind of hard.
Intense.
It's always an energy that is very while the park gives me the that
Mm,
personally need.
mm,
Not personally need because I'm a pitta. I'm a super energized bunny that I need sometimes someone that takes me down and goes like, just sit and breathe, please.
mm. In your TED talk, you talk about the making the impossible possible. And you've demonstrated that on so many levels. You demonstrated it as a human, because whatever you came up against within yourself, you went beyond it to fulfill on it. You could have given up, you could have gone home. You had ample opportunity to do something different, but you didn't, and your husband didn't. And the park itself almost literally is a living demonstration of the impossible being possible. You know, if
Absolutely.
it's salt and desert and ocean and you've got a green oasis in the middle of it. So does that in itself inspire people to believe and to have faith that, you know, they can go beyond themselves, they can, you know,
Absolutely, yes.
mm,
Mostly for Cape Verdean. So,
mm,
locals so many times that they come to me and they're like, thank you.
mm,
Thank you because you made me realize that it is possible for my country to be something.
mm,
It is possible for these horrible that the Cape Verdeans have a very interesting history. Most of Cape Verdeans live abroad.
mm,
There is a huge community out of Cabo Verde. And all of these people that were obliged to leave Cabo Verde back in the days because of hunger, basically, they have been for they have children and grandchildren, and these new generation, they're still very attached to Cabo Verde, but
mm,
they still consider Cabo Verde like, oh, oh yeah, that's where my grandparents used to live in a little cob house. So that, and when they come here and they see that, they are like, oh my God, you make me realize that my country can actually be amazing. You make me realize that if we do something here, we can improve the place. And sometimes it's funny because they're like, why in Italian and not a Cape Verdean did it? And that's when I realized, because it doesn't matter if it's Italian or Cape Verdean. I'm a person and I did it.
yeah,
That is it. When I was in TEDx, actually that part of my speech of I'm from this planet came out after being with the TEDx organization for a while, because most of the guys that came to give the speech were Cape Verdeans that live abroad. And when they met me, they're like, "Oh, so who are you? Ah, you're Italian. Oh, you live in South?" Because for for a good Cape Verdean, South is like, what? What? Why are you even thinking to live in that little rock? So Sal is the most desertic one. The only reason why tourism is here is that Mussolini, back in the days, decided to use the island of Sal to make an airport, which he would use to travel from Italy and then go to Argentina and Brazil. So the only reason, and of course, Sal was desert, flat. They came here, took some rocks out. The Portuguese were not interested at all. They were like, oh, yeah, yeah, go do your airport. So that is the only reason why Sal is so important nowadays. But for someone that comes from any other island, Sal is that little tiny rock that is a desert and nothing grows.
mm,
So for a Cape Verdean that has for his whole life had this very strong idea in his head, coming to my park and seeing that is like, wow.
mm,
And when they kept insisting on why are you doing it? Why are you not Cape Verdean? I'm like, and then I should not do anything
mm,
nicer for this country? Like, I don't understand.
mm.
So yeah, eh,
And that's an interesting point because you obviously could have chosen to you know, you either could have lived your comfortable life in Italy or you could have lived a comfortable life as an expat lifestyle within Cape Verde.
yeah,
Um, but you integrated into society for real through language, through what you created and everything else. Um, and So I can understand why it's so inspiring and maybe sometimes surprising, why people would be a bit like you say, they're a bit taken aback.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I didn't realize that until I went to TEDx and had those many conversations. I was like, okay, enough. Is it so? I'm so weird. I knew it was weird, but
yeah, unusual.
so when I went to, after a few years here, I finally went to do my teacher training in 2014. And that's when the park was actually
Mm,
getting something.
mm.
And while I was there, while I was in teacher training, I remember sitting with one of my teachers and saying, I actually don't know what I'm doing there. I actually have a greenhouse and some garden part, and I had my first donkey. So like I don't know what I'm doing there. I have no freaking idea what's going to happen, but that's why I'm here. I basically run away to give myself space and come back and see what happens. And that was the best thing I could do.
Mm.
For 2 months, I was out of here. I already, without even knowing, I had already created all the basics, but I would never saw that if I didn't go away for a couple of months and then come back.
And also, I think what you're saying is very relevant for the way people move countries. You do you, and I'll do me. It's like, if some people wish to live the expat lifestyle and do that, that's absolutely fine. And if some people want to really integrate into the society and learn languages and become part of the community, it really, I suppose it takes all sorts for everything to be how it is. But it is really interesting.
Everybody, I always say in Italy we have a saying that is really funny. The in mondo è bello perché è vario. The word is beautiful because it's a it's a variety of things. We're
Mm,
not all the same, and that's
mm,
how this planet is beautiful because we
mm.
are all completely different. And I totally appreciate that. I mean, me more than anybody knows that. I have a sister that is my antithesis. She's like nothing like me. Sometimes I'm also surprised that we are sisters. But that's it. I mean, and I love her for being herself and like everything that I wouldn't, and she loves me for liking everything that she wouldn't.
Mm.
That's fascinating, actually, when you see
I
these
was about to
different
say, then
points.
you get to share it all and you get double.
Yeah, that's also another concept that I put in my TEDx talk. Points of view. I live with a husband that is a little bit what I think is perfect, what you think is wrong, because there is one way to do things, and this is the right way you should learn. So that made me realize how difficult it is for a person like that to live in this world. Because that's a big problem for him. He's suffering all the time. Because, of course, nobody does things as you like.
Mm,
Because otherwise, you would be doing it. There is
mm,
nobody that can do things as you do. Because there is just one you.
mm,
And it takes me a lot of work to understand my husband. We have been together for 20 years, so
mm.
it's been a lot of work out. And really it is fascinating how you when you try to enter in someone's mind and use their perspective, it's like, whoa, something that you cannot do if you really respect the other person.
Mm,
Because if you don't respect the other person, you will wear their glasses and go like, "Ah, oh, this is fucking wrong.
mm,
This is so wrong. You cannot think like that. That's not good." to
No.
be able to appreciate someone else's view, you really have to respect them,
Mm,
respect yourself, because you really also have to keep your idea. You can't just go and, oh yeah, you think so. Go inside everybody's mind. So, yeah, perspective is an amazing thing.
mm.
We should learn that at school.
Absolutely.
Use perspective to
Mm,
survive in
mm,
this world.
mm. And there's something you said the other day about stop and look. Say
About
something. You said the expression stop and look.
stop and look. Yeah. I always say stop and smell the flowers.
Stop and smell the flowers.
Yeah. Or eat the flowers when when I'm talking about my donkey. Um, we should do that much more often. And that's actually a thing that I need to do a lot, you know. The perspective thing, I learned it with other people. I've always had a facility to change my perspective. And my problem is the opposite. I have to remember that I had a place and then I had an idea and got to and try to keep it.
Mm,
Otherwise, I'm going
all over
everywhere.
the place. Mm,
Yeah. But sometimes we just need to stop
mm,
and look around us and see that we are in the right place
mm,
or not.
mm,
But you will not see that if you don't stop, step back, and then you go back in and you're like, okay, now I know what to do.
mm,
I try to do it sometimes. It's not easy, of course.
mm,
That's the one thing you're always, mostly in the last few years with the pandemic, and then building the golf course, and then opening the golf course, and then building another 9 holes. It's been since November 19. I feel like my life has gone blah, 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 blah. But the house, my work, it's like, so I know I am at the point where I should stop, walk out to the door, look in from the window, and then go back in with another idea.
mm, mm,
But I'm working on that.
mm. Excellent. Oh, I'm very curious what you'll be up to next. But I really want to congratulate you on, and I'm sure lots of other people do this directly to your face when they visit the park, but on what you have accomplished and what you're making possible for the community and the environment, both spiritually and emotionally, and having people believe in themselves, but also for people like me. We move countries and it's not easy to integrate. It's not easy to always think we can fit in, never mind make our mark. So it's a very
Yeah, no.
inspiring story.
And at the same time, you never fit completely in.
Mm, mm.
But you
But
have to accept it because you're
yeah,
not from there.
yeah,
And I accept it, you know. Sometimes they're like, oh, you're Cape Green. I'm like, well, yeah, sure, but also not.
mm,
That's okay. I'm Paola.
mm.
Hello.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
I am Paola, and that's more than enough for me.
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough that here it's such a potpourri of countries. I mean, Cape Verdeans themselves are a mixture of races. And Sal Island specifically has so much foreign living. And also, Cape Verdeans themselves are so used to live abroad or have family abroad. So there is an amazing opening.
Mm.
But still, I'm the white lady. And I accept it because, from their perspective, I am the, the weird white lady that decided to stay here. Who knows why? So we have to accept sometimes that there are some limits to the actual integrating in another community. but that happens back home.
Mm,
From in Italy, my mom is from the south of Italy, and my father is from the north. You know, Melissa, my cousin, her father is also from another south, from one of the islands. So it's kind of a, and it's the same country, but you know, Italy, we are crazy, so we consider ourselves so different. We are so different. And
mm,
that's probably when I started to realize that doesn't really matter.
mm,
Now, being a part of the community, you decide how you want to be, when you want to be, and with whom. Because really, as always, then in a community, there are communities. So
mm,
I guess that when you travel abroad, when you live abroad, you just have to find a way to integrate without pushing it too much. Because again,
yeah,
you're a foreigner,
yeah,
so respect that.
yeah, exactly.
And
Uh,
actually cherish that, because as you are on a new country, in a different country, you are you're eating, and you have the possibility to learn so much of the new culture, which I think is fascinating, and it's the most amazing thing of living on another country.
mm,
Because
absolutely.
I guess what I like is that it gives you so many different perspectives
Mm,
that enrich your mind so much when you have so many different perspectives and ideas and visions, then living is easier.
mm, yeah, and that you might not necessarily have had at home. You might have done, but
Yeah,
not necessarily.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah, exactly.
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much for spending your evening in the desert dust. Um, and you know, sharing this experience with me, because I do find it really revitalizing, really, to literally, like the green grass that you sow, it is literally revitalizing, knowing that it just a tangible realization of a dream. That's what I hear, and I think it's very beautiful. Thank you.
Great. Claire, thank you so much. You know, talking about this story makes me realize sometimes that I love it.
Yeah. It reminds you that you actually do.
Yeah,
That's lovely.
yeah. 'Cause in the everyday life, I'm running around like a crazy bunny, just solving problems. The problem solver.
Mm, mm, fabulous. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thanks for being here.